What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rants and Headaches. Thank you so much for watching. So I am going through a breakup, and I've really been inspired by this whole relationship and have changed some of my content to relationship-oriented stuff. And today I want to talk about the importance of having no contact while you're going through a breakup. So having no contact with the person that you have broken up with or who broke up with you is really about healing, for one thing, and kind of accepting things for how they are now. So before I get into why I think that this is something that's really important if you're going through this, I just want to kind of share my own experience. So just to recap, I met this guy at the end of January. We've been seeing each other pretty consistently up until like 4 days ago, something like that, when I called him and said that I didn't want to see him anymore because, you know, I loved him and it was clear that he really didn't want anything more with me. And I was just to the point where it's just like, you know, every time I see you, it's just harder and harder to go home, and I can't take it anymore. But now there's one thing that I'm worried about. So during this last phone conversation we had, he's a very soft-spoken, sweet guy. Anytime a subject is being talked about that's sensitive or something, he kind of holds back a little bit, or is a bit more soft-spoken. He really tries to be sensitive to those kind of things, which is one of those things I really appreciate about him. So he did kind of shock me with one thing that he said, because I thought that was a little mean. But anyways, so at the end of this conversation, he kind of asks me what I want from here. And I told him, you know, I don't mind at some point if you call me and want to talk, but I just don't want to see you anymore because it's going to make me more emotionally attached to you. Which at the time just seemed like the right answer. That way I'm not causing drama, I'm not being mean or ugly about it. I'm just saying, you know, look, this is what the issue is, this is the situation, and I felt like that was fair. But I really don't want to hear from him again. And it's frustrating that people who don't want to be with you will act like you're out of line if you do this. Like, I thought you cared about me. Like, well, okay, but you don't want to be in my life the way I want you to be in my life. Like, it's just not the same. So I regret that I left it open-ended, and I kind of took a couple days. I'm like, okay, maybe I should text him back or call him and just be like, look, I know I said you could call me at some point, but I really don't want you to. So I don't know. I want to leave, part of me just wants to leave well enough alone. But the problem is, I feel like some type of communication from him is going to come at some point. I think because he knows what I'm going through, he has the sense to kind of back off for now. But he takes this kind of thing personally. One of his big complaints about his ex-wife is that she never speaks to him. And it's like, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. That's how I look at it. You know, and he thinks it's something that's so unreasonable and unfair, and I don't think it's unreasonable at all. Maybe it hurts more if it's someone that you've been married to, I don't know. So maybe it's because she's an ex-wife. But I kind of feel like he has the sense of, just because things didn't work out doesn't mean we can't be friends again at some point. And I'm sorry, but that's not how I feel about it at all. I mean, this is just someone that I really, really love. And if you can't be that source of support for me, then no, you don't get to call me and talk about what you're going through and how you feel and how bad your day was. I don't want that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I feel like if he contacts me, I'm going to be in a place where I feel like I've moved on, and I feel like those feelings might start to come back. I've never felt this strongly about anyone, so it's like I haven't been quite this protective of myself in a breakup in other situations, but this time it's that serious. It's that serious. I really don't need him to undo the progress I've made in terms of healing with a phone call. So that's the first problem. The second issue is, what if I am at that point involved with somebody? I want to be able to give that relationship a chance. And the last thing I need is memories of him and feelings of him to be interfering with this new thing. I don't want him calling me. But then at this point, I also don't want to just reach out just to tell him, hey, you cannot reach out. You know, it just, if it's been a couple days and it just feels like it would, I don't know. I should have told him, you know, I'm sorry, but you're out of my life. Like, it felt mean, but sometimes what feels mean to say is what you should be saying. So for example, since we're talking about dating, I used to very much be a maybe type of person. If someone asked me out and I felt bad about just saying no. So I would say, oh, maybe, or, you know, maybe sometime, you know, maybe next month, you know, it would just, you're putting it off. So first of all, if they're really gonna get their feelings hurt because you're turning them down, those feelings are gonna be hurt at some point. But you're also just giving somebody false hope. When you're telling somebody maybe, you know, you're making them feel like, okay, there's still a chance here. Maybe something really can happen. And I realized that even though I was trying to be nice, I was really just being mean and more hurtful than I intended to be. And I also think, even though it sucks and it's hard, I think that it's better to hurt someone more in the moment just to be truthful and honest than it is to drag things out and cause them more pain over time. So while I hate to do this, since I don't want to hear from him again and I don't really feel right about just calling him out of the blue just to say I don't want to talk, I'm thinking of blocking his number and just leaving it at that. I mean, it is what it is. Now, having said all of that, if you're going through a breakup and you have kind of set these no contact rules for yourself or the other person, I think that's a really good thing. That's a very healthy thing to do. Unfortunately, there can be circumstances where maybe you cannot have no contact at all with somebody. I think those situations are the hardest. Because you really need to be away from that person in order to really let go. So if this is someone that you work with, or maybe it's someone you kind of can't avoid contact with because you have kids together, I think the best thing to do in that circumstance is to just keep those communications to what is absolutely necessary. If what you're texting me about does not have to do with work, then don't text me. If what you're texting me does not have to do with our kids, then do not text me. That kind of thing. Now, that being said, I don't think a no contact thing needs to be permanent necessarily. I think some people can kind of come back and maybe be friends again, and that's cool. But it's really situational. That's not going to work for every situation. That's not going to work for every person. That's just how it is. For example, in my circumstance, one of the first things I thought about once that conversation was over and I stopped crying was that I wanted his stuff gone. I just wanted to get rid of everything that he gave me and I wanted to start forgetting. You know, that's just what I needed. I would say that a non-contact thing does not need to be permanent. If you feel like it was someone you cared about or you loved but you weren't necessarily in love with. In my particular situation, at no point did he actually tell me that I could eventually be his girlfriend or that, you know, we could have a serious committed relationship. You know, it started out as this kind of casual thing anyways. But there were just so many things that he did that just felt like he was becoming open to it. I don't know. Maybe that was just my imagination going wild, but I really started to get my hope up that we could have something, and it felt so good, and I miss that. So for me, this no contact thing needs to be permanent. I think if you're struggling as much as I am, it needs to be permanent. If you don't want this no contact rule to be permanent, I think at the bare minimum, you should give yourself 30 days. At least. I think it should be at least a full month of not talking to that person at all. Another good idea is deleting their images from your phone, deleting them on social media, maybe even blocking them. If maybe you still have someone who's trying to message you, reach out, that kind of thing. And honestly, all of that stuff, it's not even just about moving on. I feel like the moving on comes later, but first I think you need to grieve and accept what's happened. I think that's a really important step. Accepting that it's done, accepting that it's over. However, having said all of that, so let's say you're going through a breakup and, you know, you tell this person you don't want to be in contact at all for at least 30 days. And, you know, maybe then you guys just kind of text to check up on each other. Maybe you have a conversation. I just think that it is important to remember that even if you both get to a point where you feel like it's over, I don't think that having an ex in your life is something that's healthy for future relationships. I know it's something that some people feel like, you know, what's the big deal if we're still friends? I don't think you need to completely cut off your life from someone that you've been with, but I get it when people are still friends with exes, but it's just one of those things to think about. I think it's really important that you get to a point where you have not just accepted the loss, you've actually kind of started to move on before you have any contact with this person that you've broken up with. But from there, like I said, even if you do become just friends again and it's really not this big issue what you guys went through together, it can still threaten future relationships. Sometimes that's just a matter of someone being too jealous, but sometimes it's a matter of someone recognizing a legitimate threat. There are a lot of couples out there who swear that they are never getting back together again, and then they end up getting back together again. It happens. So just think about that again, and if you do remain friends, just be careful how you interact with this person. If you don't want to start a relationship again, be thoughtful of that. Don't give the impression that you want something else from them if you really don't. But whether it's permanent or not, I really feel like having a no contact period is so important. It just helps you accept the circumstances. It helps you deal with it, or at least start to deal with it. So those are my thoughts on having a no contact situation during a breakup. Right now I'm in that stage where it's like, I know there's hope and I know I'm gonna move on and maybe I will find somebody who is what I want someday, I don't know. But it still kind of feels like my world's ending, you know? So I am very much struggling. I don't want to see him, I don't want to talk to him. I don't entirely regret having met him. Honestly, I just kind of wish that we could have just had that one night that we met. I was having a really rough time and I just needed someone to talk to, and he was just everything that I needed in that moment, and it made me feel so much better and forget all my problems. So I don't regret that night for a second, but I wish I never got his number. I fell in love and he doesn't want me. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, have this video, or even just a quarter of this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe.